Well, hello everyone. This is Dr. Eileen, and this is Medicine Walk. And I'm actually taping this on Wednesday, and so hope the whatever it is that transpired worked as gently for you as possible. And it is interesting to watch as people, kind of really get wrapped up in some very intense emotions. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about empathy and how it can kind of have a downside and how we can manage that downside a little bit more gently. So, well, that's my computer making noise. Anyway, so hi. I hope that it's a good week. I hope it's been a gentle week. And I hope that, just a second, I have to check and make sure that this is up. There we go. All right. Wait a minute. Okay, we're good. Because for Blog Talk Radio, I'm doing a separate audio of the uh, of the YouTube video. So if you want to listen to it, then you can go to Blog Talk Radio, Healing House Radio with Dr. Eileen, or you get all of me here. So anyway, I've been talking to a lot of people over the last couple of days, and mixed in with some fear and anxiety, and it just seems like there's a lot of people going through some really tough stuff. There's a lot of people going through the loss of a loved one. There's a lot of people going through. Some people have lost their jobs, and when you're sensitive to the emotions of others, it's very easy to get sucked into someone else's anger or someone else's fear, because those are really among the strongest and most reactive emotions that someone can have. Those go to a primal level. Those go to core security and safety and feeling, just feeling like you're going to be okay. And so when somebody is in fear or in anger, and there's been just a little bit of that kind of out there in the energetic field lately. So when you're dealing with the fact that you're sensitive to emotions, now empathy is feeling what somebody else feels as if it is your own feeling. And one of the things that can be very tricky in this is being able to separate what you feel and what actually belongs to you versus what you're picking up from somebody else. And recently, I dealt with someone who was in a very stressful situation, and their empathy actually just shut them off. They weren't able to talk and express. And for some people, the reaction can be that profound. You don't know how to react. You go into, in a way, it's sort of a fight, flight, or freeze. And what it does is it will send people into freeze. And I've been, I've been empathic my whole life. I just didn't have a word for it when I was younger. And what I was told was that I was overly dramatic or overly sensitive, or that I just wanted attention. And often people who grow up empathic, who don't understand the mechanism of it, that's what you're told, so that's what you believe about yourself. So it adds kind of an element of there's something wrong with me, or I'm a bad person, or I'm crazy because I can feel the feelings of other people. So you're not, and you're not. Empathy is a well documented phenomena for some people, and there's kind of a scale for it. You can be tremendously empathic. To the point of where it's just disruptive, almost to the point of telepathy, or you can just sort of simply be affected by what it is that other people are feeling. I use empathy as a diagnostic tool. In my work as a chiropractor and my work with communicating with people and in counseling, I will decide if empathy is necessary. Because sometimes empathy is not necessary. Sympathy is more than enough. But if empathy is necessary, if for some reason I need a little bit of extra information in order to help someone, then we take a look at, okay, do I need it at empathy level 1 or do I need it at empathy level 10? And understanding that empathy isn't just about feeling emotions, it's about transmitting, but we'll get into that. So the idea that we're picking up on things that are not from inside of us, they don't belong to us, but they've kind of hitched a ride onto our psyche and on our energetic field. So, what do you do about it? Well, the first thing you do is recognize what is yours and what is not. And there's different ways to do this. Um, Sometimes you can just kind of ask yourself or check in with yourself. For me, I close my eyes and I'll picture it like a line, like one of those, like an EKG type of thing. And it'll be going along flat. And I ask myself, does this belong to me? If a feeling comes in. And if I get a little boop, then I know if there's any reaction, if there's any change to the frequency, I know whatever it is not mine. But that's how I was able to work with it. Different people have different ways. Now, deciding whether or not empathy is appropriate or if that's the tool you want to pull out of your toolkit, well, that can depend on your ability to be able to make that choice. I've worked with a lot of people who were empathic who couldn't figure out how to make that a matter of choice, that empathy was always on. And that can be really, really rough, especially during times that are very volatile. Or if somebody thinks badly of you and you're empathic, that means there's two people thinking badly of you because you feel it as if it's your own feeling. So being able to recognize that something does not belong to you and being able to say, I do not choose to have this ability active right now. And you do have that choice, and there are ways to do that. One of the ways that I often teach, which is one of the most basic ways, is to work with stones. And let's see, where is it? Uh, well, normally I have a stone around here. Anyway, hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Stone, and it could be anything. I like working with river stones because they have sort of an energetic of, or their whole thing is about letting things flow past and go. Just like, they constantly have water moving. They don't cling to anything. So, a stone is very still. But, and especially if you're empathic, if you hold on to it and make yourself very, very, very quiet, and you just breathe, and then try feeling what the stone feels. I mean, first feel the outside. Feel what it feels like. Feel what it, the physical experience of it. How heavy does it feel? Is it smooth? Is it rough? What shape is it? And then once you have that, just kind of get very quiet and feel, and even if you have to pretend what it would it be like to be this stone. What would I feel if I were this stone? And if you get very, very quiet and you just breathe, and then you sort of get a sense of stillness, quietness, of detachment. And I have people work with that, and every single day, take your stone and get all connected to it, and then pretend that you're it. Feel what it would feel like to be that stone. Now, what that does is, after a while, when something happens, you kind of create sort of a mental muscle memory of what that stone feels like, what it feels like to be that stone. And then if you're in a stressful situation, or if you're in a situation where where energy is just, kind of getting away from you, or if it's very emotional, think to yourself, I am a stone. And then that stillness, you feel that stillness come over you. Empathy fades. It just kind of goes down. And you are just in that place of quiet, peace, no movement. And it's amazing how easily you can, really get into that connected place with a stone to be able to embody that stillness. And when you can embody that stillness, your empathy will dial down as if it's on a dimmer switch and then click off. So that is like the most basic technique to practice, and I would encourage you to practice it. Find a stone that you resonate with. Maybe you collect stones, and it could be a big stone, it could be a small stone, but whatever it is, get one that you kind of feel sort of a kinship with, or that feels good in your hand, and just go into that quiet place with it. Like I said, even if you're just pretending, pretend that you are the stone. And after a while, your mind, your spirit, your body, and your empathy will be able to go into that state anytime you want. Which means that you are no longer subject to what's going on around you, because everything is flowing past. You're not attaching to anything, and nothing is attaching to you. So, great practice. So, as we look at situations where, someone is, really agitated around you, and you feel yourself getting sucked into that, first off, decide whether or not it's any of your business. And don't make it your business if it's not. Don't decide that you personally need to handle this, that you personally need to fix this person, because we don't fix other people. The most you can do is maybe allow them an opportunity to see a different way, to see a new possibility. But if they don't want to see that, there's nothing you can do to make them. So don't try. There was an old TV show, and one of the characters said, minding my own business is a full-time job, and in my spare time, it's my hobby. And that is actually a very good mantra for people who are empathic. Because that empath in you, I've talked before about like the council in your head, and it's your anger and your love and your highest self and your lowest self and all of that. And your empathy has a seat at that table, and your empathy wants to be empathic. It wants that stimulation. It wants to connect energetically. But it's not always the best idea. It's not always really what you need. It's not necessarily what serves you, and it's definitely not necessarily what serves that person. So consider really what it is that you want to accomplish, and what is it that is your business to accomplish. Because, you could go barreling in and saying, well, this person needs my help, and I'm going to help them. And they may not want it, and they may not be ready for that yet. So don't allow that little empath voice inside of you that says, no, we have to connect, we have to get involved. Not necessarily. Sometimes it's absolutely fine just to be sympathetic. You don't have to be empathetic. And when you're dealing with people who have a lot of anger, especially over things that are happening, maybe it's a political issue, maybe it's a economic issue, maybe it's a social injustice issue. And the cause could be tremendously just, and it could be a cause that you firmly believe in. And things are resolved when we can go at them from a rational point of view, when we can engage that left brain, the analytical side. We can't solve problems, or we rarely, very rarely, can solve problems from a state of emotion. We've got to bring in some of the analysis. We've got to bring in the problem solving. So when you take a look at how you're relating to someone, if you're just, in that anger place with them, nothing's going to get resolved. Now you can vent. If you want to use that as a venting opportunity, knock yourself out. Let yourself vent. Go for it. And don't think that you're in problem solving mode. You're in releasing energy mode. And that's okay. And maybe that other person needs to release some energy. That doesn't mean you have to go there with them. If you got somebody who just needs to vent and let stuff out, you come from a place of balance, because that gives them a safe place to do that. Don't go with them on it, because you're not helping. You help by allowing somebody to get enough steam out so that they can take a breath and say, okay, what is it that you want from this? What about this can you influence? Can you control? And what are the things that you can't? What are the things that need to just be accepted? So we can really be very helpful in helping someone to find their balance point, but we can't do it if we're experiencing the exact same thing that they are. It goes back to that old saying about the most dangerous thing someone can do is try to save a drowning person, because that person will pull them under. And it's very easy to get energetically and empathically and emotionally pulled under by someone experiencing an intense emotion if you don't have your balance point set. If you get triggered, then you can't help somebody else. Then it's just two people drowning. So take a look at what it is that you want to accomplish. Always consider in everything you do, what is the outcome that I would like from this? And how is it that I can most easily get that? How can I create that for myself? Or how can I help somebody else create it for themselves? And it could be that, maybe something happens and, maybe you're the one who's upset. Maybe you're the one who's having trouble finding balance and grounding. And, somebody else, and you can almost pick the empaths out, because first off, an empath who is just sort of caught up in it will actively find someone who can trigger that sort of stuff, who can trigger that reaction, or they will abjectly avoid it. I know empaths who will not go near a hospital, or say they cannot go near a hospital, or any sad things, and they never go to funerals because they cannot help but get sucked in. And then, and then they don't know how to find their way out. So the idea is that as an empath, if you're going to work with somebody on an empathic level, not only do you need to know how to go in a controlled way, you need to be able to find your way back out again when it's done. And it's sort of, I compare it to going to a barbecue wearing white. The trick is, don't get any on you. And that can be hard. That can be very difficult, because sometimes people want you in that emotional state with them, because then that means that it validates them somehow. So as you take a look at what your interactions are with people, how often do you find yourself, they're wound up, then you're wound up, then they feel better, and they wander up feeling better, and you're still stuck there wound up. And, that's, once again, that's where working with stones can really be a huge, huge help, because, the stone is not going to hold on to stuff. The stone is not going to say, oh my gosh, what happened yesterday, what happened the day before, and, I feel so bad for this person. Stones don't feel bad for anybody. They're just still, because they understand that things happen. And the trick is to just let stuff flow. Let it flow past you. And that's the greatest gift that they can teach, is to allow things to just flow by. And I find that, sometimes if somebody is coming to me and they're having a real difficult time, I go find them a stone, and it's like, okay, I want you to sit and just hold this while you talk. and I can actually see them unconsciously kind of going in, and and they're like moving it around in their hand and they're holding it. And then all of a sudden though, they start to calm down, they start to find their ground, they start to settle. And because on an instinctive energetic level, they're connecting with the flow of the river, they're connecting with that stone, and it's teaching them, let go and be still. And if you can do those two things, yeah, it's amazing how quickly we can become settled, how quickly we can detach, how quickly we can decide that someone else's story isn't necessarily ours, and it doesn't mean that it should be. It allows us to go into that objective place, to look at something from, the big picture as opposed to tunnel vision. So, figure out what works for you. Maybe a stone works for you. Maybe just breathing exercises. There's breathing techniques that people do. You breathe in for a count of 4 and then exhale for a count of 8. And you do that a few times. And often, if you're feeling stressed out and you do that like at least 3 times, like 3 to 5 times, you feel that sense of quiet coming over you. Breathe in. I mean, whether it's for 4 or whatever, just the point is that you breathe in and then you exhale for a count twice as long. And it relaxes the mind, it relaxes the body. It takes you into the eye of the storm as opposed to being stuck in the storm. So, that's another way that can calm down empathy. Empathy is an amazing thing. Like I said, I use it every single day. And whether I'm working with somebody on an energetic level, a counseling, spiritual counseling level, or even as a chiropractor, the ability to engage what it is that I need to engage, what are the tools that I need to get to the goal I want. If I need to figure out where somebody's pain mechanisms are. And it's interesting because often people will, I'll kind of go and, because their body is experiencing that energy, I can utilize empathy to be able to find the spot where the problem is starting. And I'll put my finger somewhere and I go, okay, right there. And they'll go, oh my God, how did you know? That's it. That's the spot. Because see, the body also holds emotion in different parts of the body. I've been doing body work on people, and anybody who does body work, has probably experienced that you might be working on something and it'll reach like, part of the leg or a part of the arm, and all of a sudden the person has a memory come up, or they may start crying. So the idea that our body holds emotional memory, which means that that can be used on an empathetic level to help figure out where the body is out of alignment or where the body is not in balance. And, you know, and sometimes I need to shut the empathy off, because if I'm working on somebody and they're going through like a really tough emotional time, my empathy wants to go there with them. My empathy wants to feel what they're feeling as if I'm feeling it. And that is not productive if I'm working on them, if I'm trying to help them. I can't go there. So we find a way. We figure out a way, okay, we have to find balance and be able to detach enough to where I can be objective enough to be able to help them. Because otherwise, I'm just the, person saving the drowning person who gets pulled under. Now, empathy can be transmitted. It's not just about receiving. And that is, well, there's a whole lot of possibilities, in everything from light to shadow. Because what you do is that you project into someone a feeling